Okay, so welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we are looking into Matthieu Blazy's debut collection at Bottega Veneta. But before I continue, if you want to learn about fashion more effectively, check out my ebook in the link in the description below. Now, Matthieu Blazy's original promotion to artistic director at Bottega Veneta was seen as a very shocking but also expected move. Of course, Daniel Lee left and Matthieu Blazy was the person that was working really closely with Daniel Lee at Bottega Veneta. And the thing is that a lot of what we think that Daniel Lee designed, or things that we credit Daniel Lee for creating, a lot of it would have also been created by Matthieu Blazy because of his working so closely with Daniel Lee. Generally, it was also good just to see Matthieu Blazy get that sort of role. I mean, Matthieu Blazy has been honing his skills in fashion for so many years. While he was still studying at university, he interned for Nicolas Gasquier at Balenciaga in 2005. He also worked under John Galliano. In 2007, following his graduation, he became a menswear designer at Raf Simons and worked very closely with Raf before joining Maison Margiela to design the artisanal line and the women's ready-to-wear show. By 2014, he became a senior designer at Cèline, working under Phoebe Philo, before again working with Raf Simons at Calvin Klein between 2016 to 2019. More recently, in 2020, he was appointed as the ready-to-wear design director at Bottega Veneta, and this is where he started working really closely with Daniel Lee. And of course, we get to the point we are now where he is currently the artistic director of Bottega Veneta. Now, usually when you have these high-profile debut collections, two things are likely to happen. The first thing that's likely to happen is the designer wipes the floor and does a complete clean slate and just shows that, oh, this is my direction for the brand. Or actually, the designer builds on what the previous creative director has already done there and sort of advances it. But in this case, it was very interesting. It was almost like Matthieu Blazy was trying to take ownership of stuff he had designed. Like I alluded to before, Matthieu Blazy working so closely with Daniel Lee, a lot of the stuff would have been his work, his designs, his ideas. And that's why a lot of people said this collection was similar to what they've seen Daniel Lee create, which would make a lot of sense because he was designing a lot of that stuff. And so therefore, in the debut for Winter 22 collection, we saw the Bottega classics and what we associate with Daniel Lee's Bottega, but it was slightly subverted. And I must say it was also quite safe, which is fine when it's a debut collection and you have to sort of start on a good foot. He also managed to weave references, which I'll talk about later, in terms of where he has worked past. There was a lot of Balenciaga in this collection, some Margiela in the accessories and things like that. This is quite interesting because the first couple of looks, this was obviously an optical illusion, and the vest and the jeans were actually leather, so it's like an optical illusion. It's supposed to look like a tank top and jeans. And it's quite interesting because of course he has a really good relationship with Raf Simons, and Raf Simons with his Prada shows showed like a similar like tank top. This season a lot of brands had that white tank top. I don't know what that was all about, but yeah. You can also see the bags, because I know it's kind of boring and people don't like talking about things like accessories, especially people like me. Like, I don't really care, but like, okay, that pillow bag is really Margiela, by the way. But the thing about accessories for a brand like Bottega Veneta, it's so important because that is what sells, the footwear and the bag. So it's really important. Most of the people that watch this show would have been looking to see, okay, what are the Matthieu Blazy bags going to be? And really, he just gave so many different designs in the intrecciato design, woven design. So yeah, I guess he just gave people what they wanted, essentially. I think what was more fascinating for me in this runway show is the tailoring. Matthieu stayed true to Bottega's heritage in this collection with its leather overload. So many of the pieces were designed in leather. And Bottega Veneta is a brand that's historically known for leather. It's a leather goods company. So it makes a lot of sense that he would stay true to this. He also introduced some interesting takes with this intrecciato design, whether it came in the form of skirts and the thigh-high boots that were on the runway. But more interestingly, Matthieu Blazy thought about the clothing in this collection as moving sculptures inspired by the Italian futurist Umberto Boccioni. Blazy specifically referenced unique forms of continuity in space, which is a sculpture of a really athletic human body mid-stride. And this sculpture is striking for many different reasons. When you look at this sculpture, there are so many contours and different parts and elements of the sculpture that whatever angle you look at this sculpture from, it looks more 3D than it already is. Some sculptures, because it's so symmetrical, what happens is from one angle, you can't see anything behind or anything coming out. So it looks flat. If someone was to take a picture of certain sculptures from a certain angle, they look flat. But with this sculpture, it doesn't look like that, and it's what makes it even more striking. Matthieu Blazy translated the idea of this sculpture into the clothes, incorporating a lot of movement into the garments and giving the garments very interesting shape. For example, the C-shaped coat presented a very distinctive shape, especially from a side-on view. This angle actually also reminds you of the sculpture in the stance that the models are captured in. And this also goes back to Matthieu Blazy referencing places that he's worked. Balenciaga has designed coats with a C-shaped aesthetic. And it's quite interesting that he could bring the idea of the fact that he worked at Margiela and he would have learnt about those kind of shapes, and he's bringing those back in this collection, but it's also still a reference to Umberto Boccioni's work at the same time. He also made a reference to his want to showcase movement in this collection. In the show notes, he said, Bottega Veneta is in essence pragmatic because it is a leather goods company. Because it specializes in bags, it's about movement, of going somewhere. There is fundamentally an idea of craft in motion. It is style over fashion in its timelessness. This is part of its quiet power. This idea of movement progressed throughout the show. Dresses and skirts had colourful fringes that swayed along the runway, and the sharp tailoring of the trousers exaggerated what would be the movement of normal trousers. And to me, this collection, like I said earlier, was quite safe in terms of the product, but that really is what Bottega Veneta is. It's luxury fashion done well, and I definitely think that Matthieu Blazy's debut at Bottega was done really well, and the shape of the coats was just amazing. It's a way for customers to look chic, but not completely basic, which is, I think, the market that Bottega Veneta is really going for in the first place. And the collection did have a focus on products. People a lot were talking about the pillow sneakers. I saw a lot of people talking about the furry heels. And so that was kind of what they were going for, and I think it was really successful in general. I do wonder though, now that Matthieu Blazy is at the helm of Bottega Veneta, if they're ever going to bring back their social media, but who knows, maybe they're just going to continue that way, because after all, Matthieu Blazy was with Daniel Lee when that decision was made, so I can imagine he agrees with it. But yeah, thank you for watching. Let me know what your thoughts were on Matthieu Blazy's debut collection, and I'll be back with another video very soon.